lot, but when you're first starting out, it's better to try and stick to some of the more commonly used ones, really. Out of the 4 castles and forts I've got to show you today, there are 2 bricks, or 2 types of panels that are used in both of them, or both types. So the first one I'll show you that's more commonly used is the panel piece with a small window. So this one is 5 studs long, and it's completely smooth on the front. It has a slight overlap to the back. Now the way Lego have used these in so many different castles and forts, keeping them all looking quite different between them, is to make all the bricks the same shape but different colours, different patterns on them as well. So I've got a few to show you. You can see this one's got a yellow woodwork effect on it. We've got a plain grey castle one. We've got 2 grey castle ones that have a brick effect on them. So 2 different brick effects on those 2. Also got a plain yellow one. Got a darker grey. And also, just to show you a different one again, we've got a white one with a brick effect on it. So you can get some quite different looking castle forts. There are more colours and patterns available. The other brick that's used in the 2 forts that I've got for you to show you is this one. Now you can see it's very similar to the castle, and it has no window. It's got a sort of wobbly, what they use for a wood effect on this one. And it's also 1 brick wider, or 1 stud wider on the others. But apart from that, you can see it's very similar. Another brick that they use a lot in the castles is the corner panel piece. You can see that, and again, they've made that one in various colours and put some pictures on it, got one with a little greenery effect on it. Again, a yellow brick effect one. And I've also got a black one to show you. There are also some larger and different shaped panel pieces that Lego do use in their kits. None of the kits I've got today use these pieces, but we've got a very large castle piece there. You can see that one is a lot deeper as well than the other pieces. We've got some also very curved ones there. The gateway one. And again, sort of 45-degree curve with a brick effect on it. Some other pieces you've got, for example, pieces that are commonly used on the sort of ramparts around the top. So you've got this brick here and this one over here, so you can see those 2 there. Again, they come in a variety of different colours, but I will say mainly grey and black for these ones. None of the castle kits I've got today actually use these pieces either, but just so we know they're around, again, they are fairly commonly used in most castles. So, the first castle I'm going to show you is the King's Castle. This one was released in 1984. So a bit of an older kit there. So you can see it's a fairly square shaped castle. The good thing about a lot of the Lego castles as they make them is that they actually all open out. So they're all on hinges, and you can open them out to get to the inside. So structure-wise on this castle, the first thing you'll see is the walls. The first thing you'll see on the walls is that the panel pieces are all directly next to each other. They've left no gaps in between at any point. So they are literally just stacking them next to each other. Underneath the walkway you've got an outward slope piece. So that is widening for an extra strength, I guess, on the walkway that the soldiers can then stand on inside. It also means that the top of the wall is sticking out 1 brick further than the base of the wall. The other thing to note on the castles, in fact all of the castles and forts that I've got today, they all have what are called crenellations on the top. So these are the up and down bits across the top of the walls and the towers. In most castles they're generally for the soldiers to hide behind and shoot out the without presenting themselves as targets. The towers themselves on this one, as I mentioned before, they're square towers. They're made out of 3 panels for each tower. So you've got a side, a front, a back. The thing with the middle panel of this tower is it would block the walkway around in this build. So I guess that would be one kind of negative for it there. Again, all the panels are directly next to each other. They've just used little round circular pieces for decoration on the actual corners. The top of the tower again has the crenellations, so the up and down sections. And I think that's all we're going to do on that one for now. So the second one we're looking at is Fort Legorado. So this is a Western style Lego fortress. This one doesn't have the joints that the castle has. So rather than opening it out and it all staying attached, this one did still come in sections, and you could actually attach the sections together instead to change the layout of your castle or your fort in this case. So the walls, the similarities, again you've got the crenellations at the top. Differences between this one and the one we've just looked at. What they've actually done, so again you've got the panel pieces here, these are the slightly wider ones that I mentioned before, and they've actually left little gaps in between, which they've turned into windows in this case. So the only bit they've done differently is just to widen the gap between the panels. Apart from that, the build itself is very similar to that of the castle we looked at before. Because this one, you'll notice, doesn't stick out at the top like the other castle did, they've actually had to use supports at the back to help hold up the walkway so that it stays nice and stable in this case. They've also used rock pieces in this one again to help widen and strengthen the walkway at the top, and again in this section you can see that there are the pillars behind for extra support. The towers in this case are again made out of the panels themselves, so in this one we've got 2 panels, but in this case because the tower is in the middle of the walkway, whereas on the previous castle they were always on the corners, it means that you do get a walkway all the way through the tower, so you're not looking at a continuous walkway around the fort. The Viking fortress is the next one we're going to have a look at. So I've got a wall piece from that one here. So construction walls, again we're looking at the same panels that we used in the Viking fort, but as you can see it has quite a different effect from the Western fort to the Viking one. The main differences in the walls here, you'll see that the panel pieces don't actually touch the baseboard. There's an extra piece separating them in between, so that's making the walls taller and a bit more imposing. Again on here you've got the crenellations that the other walls have. They've also left gaps between the panels, but this time you've got upright post blocking, so there are no windows like you have again in the Western style fort. The other thing they've done is to use outward sloping pieces at the bottom as well as the top. So again you've got the actual top is slightly further out the fort. On the inside you can see there are a couple of supports, but they're mainly at the ends and in the middle, just for an extra bit of strength. The tower itself, so this time this tower isn't topped with the crenellations that the other towers have. Instead in this one you've got a catapult and then a separate shield for your defender instead, just to make that look different. So the could combine this castle with the previous one I showed you and make either a long wall or slowly make an even larger castle. So, these pieces and the way this castle is built. So, similarities firstly. Again, you can see the panel pieces, like the first castle, are right next to each other with no gap. And they're sat straight onto the baseboard. The top of the walls have the crenellations that we mentioned before, and the towers in the corners are made in such a way that they're not blocking the continuous walkway around the castle. The differences in this one have actually quite a good effect. So the towers themselves at the top, I'll try and tilt this one, they use macaroni shaped pieces. So that's where you've got this unusual effect in the shape at the top of the towers. So you can see in comparison to the first castle, which just had the square topped towers. So that's one quite large difference, because this tower is using, if I find them, the corner pieces on the towers rather than the flat pieces. It gives the whole tower a different shape and allows them to use those macaroni shaped pieces at the top. Another thing with using the corner pieces rather than the flat edge panels is that's what allows the continuous walkway, so the actual tower sits in the corner. The tower itself, as well, you can see from the inside, unlike all of the other castles, has no support or extra support on the inside of the wall directly underneath it, and that's because the supports themselves are towards the outside, and again they're using outward sloping or upward sloping pieces to allow the extra support of the tower. The other really big difference in this one, which has a really nice effect, the walkway at the back is actually made using what's normally used on the bottom of aeroplanes, so those shaped pieces back there. That allows, therefore, an inside handrail and the outside wall as well. So, in summary, that's the 4 kits that I was showing you today. So I guess the summary is that if you're building a castle and if you're making your own, the panel pieces will give you quite a fast and effective wall. But there's lots of different ways you can use them, even just by leaving a small gap between them and using other pieces, or by putting them directly next to each other. You can get quite a different effect. And another way of getting your different effect is using the different brick pieces. And you can see again on the first floor how that does help break up the grey. So you can see a couple of pieces used in there that have the brick effect on them. You can also, so the other summary point to make is that you can also add decoration to the top of the walls instead. So although the walls could be quite similar between kits and anything you build, the decoration you add to the top of it, so in this case the shields and the dinosaur bones there, can make quite a different effect. And the other thing to know is that the range of Lego pieces can be overwhelming, especially if you're just starting to try and build castles. So it is worth, just especially when you're getting used to it, just sticking to more basic shapes and just adding a few extra different pieces in. So trying to use different outward slopes and upward slopes can make quite a different effect